Hello friends, welcome. So we are entering into the final module of this course, and within two more lectures I believe, or one or two lectures I believe, we will be winding this course up. Now if you could recollect, we began by considering what minerals are, and from then we moved on to the second module of understanding why minerals are different from all the other materials that surround us. Particularly, what are the characteristic features associated with the minerals, or what makes minerals a minerals. So after understanding or while studying the properties of the mineral or the distinguishing features of the mineral, we saw that studying mineral, what they are and their distinguishing features, is important because it enables us, based on their distinguishing features, to treat them appropriately. So based on their features, we were able to treat them or separate the desired mineral from that of the impurities. So it all depends on the characteristic features or the distinguishing features of these minerals. And once we were able to understand, or at least we acquainted ourselves with the terminologies that is used to describe the characteristic features of the minerals, we went into the mineral processing techniques. So only after considering what minerals are and what are their distinguishing features, we considered the mineral processing technique as a whole. We considered a general overview of the mineral processing techniques, and we saw that this whole mineral processing can be categorized into two. The whole scheme of mineral processing, the whole flow of mineral processing can be categorized into two. It begins with the comminution, or wherein the liberation is achieved, wherein the desired mineral is being separated from its impurities, which again is another mineral which we refer to it as gangue. And the liberation, after the mineral is separated from the impurities, what we essentially end up with is the mixture of fragments that comprises of both the desired mineral and also the impurities. And in order to separate it, we consider the process of concentration. And if you could look back and consider your course plan, or the different modules, the name that we assign for the different modules, we refer to this concentration as enrichment. So enrichment is another name that we use for concentration. So in between this transition, that is between the comminution and concentration, we have this process of classification. So the classification helps us have a good or a smooth transition from one category of mineral processing techniques to another category of mineral processing techniques. However, it is key for us to understand that even though there are techniques that are involved in comminution which are not, or which do not essentially employ, or which do not essentially achieve liberation, which do not essentially fragment a given particle, which is the key aspect of comminution, these processes, they are integral part of comminution, and despite being integral part of comminution, they do not fragment any given large mineral particle, but their role is to separate the particles or distinguish particles based on their sizes. Now, one such technique is referred to as the screening, and classification is also such technique wherein a mixture of materials or a mixture of particles, they are separated based on their size or density or mass alone. So there is no consideration that is rendered for the chemical composition of the particles. So when we say that a mixture of particles comprises of minerals, the desired minerals and the gangue, the distinguishing feature here, even though it can be density, even though it can be electrical conductivity, even though it can be magnetic susceptibility, even though these properties might vary, the critical feature that we are interested in is the difference in the chemical composition, because it is within the desired chemical we are planning to extract, or we are planning to identify, or we are planning to realize the desired end product. So there is something within this desired mineral, there is a chemical or there is an element within this desired mineral that we are interested in. So therefore, as opposed to screening, which is a part of comminution, classification, which in itself is a unique, or which in itself is a technique that lays between, or that is often found between the comminution and the concentration, even though they have certain similarity with certain techniques of concentration, when you consider the ultimate goal of concentration is to separate the minerals from that of the gangue, whereas the goal of classification and that of screening is to separate the particles based on either their size, density or mass. Now, in the previous lecture, we considered one of the concentration technique called froth flotation. Now, if you could recollect the process of froth flotation, what we essentially employed is the feature of the particles that we essentially employed to separate the mineral from that of the gangue is its chemical composition. So, depending on the chemical composition, we were able to manipulate the mineral particle distinctly when compared to the other particles. So, it is based on the chemical composition, we were able to manipulate the surface of the mineral particles much different from that of the gangue particles, and this we were able to do through appropriate collectors or the chemical reagents. So what the key feature here, unlike gravity separation wherein the key feature is the density of the mineral and the gangue particle, the difference in the density of the mineral and gangue particles, and the efficiency, if you could recollect, for the gravity separation depends on the difference in the density of the mineral gangue particle and of course the density of the fluid, because it is within the fluid these particles exhibit a specific form of a movement. So therefore, in case of gravity separation, it is much more closer to that of the classification, because in that sense, because it employs the difference in the densities in order to achieve a separation. However, when we look closely into the process of gravity separation, when we look closely into the operation of the gravity separation, we saw that other influences, the influences of size, the influence of mass, so size correspondingly, we saw that size, if we consider size as an independent or dependent variable, the mass can be treated as an independent variable. So the size and mass are rather, once the density is fixed, the size and mass are dependent on each other. So when we consider gravity separation, we want the separation, or we want the movement of the particle that enables us to separate to be exclusively based on density alone. So accordingly we plan our gravity, or accordingly we operate our jigs to ensure that the movement of the particles are essentially based on their, or principally based on their densities alone. And even when you consider the shaking table approach, we want to avoid the role or influence of the size on the movement or the migration of the particles. Now, when we divert our focus from that of the gravity separation to that of froth flotation, here the primary factor that enables us to separate mineral from that of the gangue is the way the surface of the particle gets manipulated, and the way the surface of the particle gets manipulated is dependent exclusively on the chemical composition. So naturally, the chemical composition of the mineral is different from that of the gangue. So it is almost always the case for the different minerals that we consider on an industrial scale, and that is the reason why the froth flotation is rather a versatile technique. You observe that the froth flotation is used for a wide range of sizes, and it can be used for a wide range of minerals and gangue combination, because principally when you consider a mixture of particles, the composition of the mineral is quite significantly different from that of the gangue, and it is observed usually in a wide range of the product of the combination. Same cannot be said for other concentration techniques. So we have seen the concentration technique that is based on density, that is gravity separation. We cannot often say that the density of the mineral particle is significantly different, or desirously different from that of the gangue. We saw that the efficiency or the difference in the density of the mineral and the gangue with respect to that of the fluid should be greater than a specific value. We cannot ensure, or we cannot be completely sure that for any given combination of mineral and gangue, this condition will be satisfied. We cannot say that for sure. And the same goes for other concentration technique, which we have sufficiently considered during the introductory or the overview of concentration. So we have other concentration techniques like magnetic separation and electrostatic separation. So these we will not be looking into closely, because we have sufficiently considered while we considered the concentration process as a whole. So we have considered the critical aspects of these two separation, that is magnetic and electrostatic separation, while we consider the concentration as a whole. Therefore, we will not be dedicating, or there will not be considering a separate treatment of these techniques. So therefore, even in these techniques, the principal feature that enables us to separate the mineral from gangue is the difference in their conductivity, or difference in their magnetic susceptibility, or the difference in the electronic configuration that allows us for the electronic configuration that allows us or creates a difference in the electrostatic force or the electric conductivity. Now, these are rather specific, and these differences cannot be expected in all of the combinations of minerals and gangue. However, contrastingly, the similarity or the common thread that we observe in a combination of minerals and gangue, in a mixture of minerals and particles, a mixture of particles that comprises of minerals and gangue, we observe that the chemical composition is quite different from that of mineral when compared to that of gangue. So therefore, even though it is possible for us to select a specific concentration technique, it is possible for us to select to be efficient and to be rather economical as well, it is possible for us to select a specific concentration technique. If you look closely, one of the factors that remains consistent in all the mixtures that we are treating is the difference in the chemical composition of the mineral and that of the gangue. So when you consider the flotation technique, we are exclusively and directly using this or exploiting this difference in the chemical composition to our advantage to separate the mineral from that of the gangue. And now when you consider the magnetic behavior or the electrostatic behavior or even the densities, they are the byproduct of the chemical composition. In one way or the other, one can relate the features of the desired differences in the features of minerals. For instance, this could be density or the magnetic behavior or the electrostatic behavior. So whatever features that we often exploit for our benefit in order to achieve or in order to separate the mineral from that of the gangue, so often these are the features that we exploit. In one way or the other, they can be related to ultimately to the chemical makeup of the mineral, the distinguishing chemical makeup of the mineral and that of the gangue. And this difference in the chemical composition of the minerals and the gangue is rather directly exploited in the framework of flotation. Now, in the next module, what we are essentially interested in is understanding the chemical composition of the minerals and gangue. Now, the reason it is important for us to separate a given particles into mineral and gangue is because we are interested in the process of concentration. Only within the framework of concentration, it is desired for us to separate the mineral from that of the gangue. If you are considering, or for the sake of categorizing a given combination of particles, we often, based on their features, it can generally be categorized as minerals. In other words, even though gangue is an impurity, this impurity is rather subjective. Because we are focused on a desired mineral, because we have already identified a desired mineral, all the rest appear to us as impurities. But if you consider, or if you are being purely technical, then these gangues are also minerals. So, in every aspect, be it comminution or be it concentration, and more so in concentration, the chemical composition of the minerals and gangue, it play a vital role. The chemical composition of the mineral plays a vital role. So therefore, it is critical for us to understand the chemical composition, so to study the chemical composition of the minerals for the mineral processing. So when you are adapting the mineral processing, so we have seen different mineral processing techniques, particularly we have seen, at least we have looked into the different concentration techniques, and these concentration techniques, they make use of the difference in certain features, and it is possible for us to relate these features to chemical composition. Therefore, it is vital for us as a metallurgist or a material scientist to understand how this chemical composition is estimated within a mineral, and that is what we will be looking into in this last module. So in this last module, our primary intention is to look into or to see how the chemical composition is assessed in a mineral. So this is what we refer to as the chemical analysis. So chemical analysis is a very generic term, so it can refer to any chemical analysis, but we are rather restricting its application. We are interested in exploiting this chemical or employing this chemical analysis to understand the chemical makeup or the chemical composition of the minerals. And therefore, we want to exploit the chemical analysis for the appropriate mineral processing. So we need to ensure that we are efficiently employing the mineral processing technique. So the chemical analysis is not a standalone, so we are not considering the chemical analysis as a standalone approach. We are considering the chemical analysis in the context of the mineral processing. So even though we state that the mineral processing technique comprises of largely of comminution and concentration, the term largely is key here because between this comminution and the concentration, or even before the process of comminution, there is the chemical analysis involved. Only after sufficient level of chemical analysis we will be able to get into the mineral processing as a technique in itself. So the overall mineral processing, it begins with, or it includes within itself, it includes the chemical analysis. Like screening is a part of comminution. Unless others look closely into the process chain, we will not be able to identify screening. The same goes with chemical analysis. When we considered the comminution process and when we consider the concentration process, we implicitly assumed that we have already distinguished mineral from that of the gangue, and all these distinction and the process of identifying a given mineral comes under the framework of chemical analysis. Now, like we considered earlier, so moments before, the raw material for our mineral processing is nothing but the large particle that comprises of both mineral and the gangue. So in order to assess this mineral and its surrounding particles, so what is there in this given mineral and what is the impurity that surrounds this mineral, we employ the chemical analysis. So when we consider the role of chemical analysis in the framework of mineral processing, it begins with analyzing the raw material that we have. It begins with understanding what is the different composition and what is the composition of this localized region and what is the composition of the surrounding region. Is there any distinction if I'm given a big chunk of run-of-mine particle, and in this run-of-mine particles there are different chemicals that are being that can be rather observed, and it is my role to understand where or what is the localized, so what kind of chemicals are being localized, what kind of elements or what kinds of components are localized and what are rather found in a large quantity. So all these are estimated through the chemical analysis. And one other aspect of this chemical analysis of the raw materials, again raw materials in the context of mineral processing, which is often the run-of-mine particles. So the chemical analysis on a run-of-mine particle helps us to assess what mineral is present in it and for what process or for what end product can this raw material be employed or exploited. Comes from this idea. This whole process of or the whole flow chart of mineral processing begins with this chemical analysis of the run-of-mine particle. So the whole plan of what process to employ, how to proceed further, and what end product can be profitably made from this given raw material comes from the chemical analysis, the initial chemical analysis, again within the framework of mineral processing. Now, one other aspect that is often overlooked, that was previously overlooked and we are paying the price for it, is the role of employing chemical analysis to identify the hazardous material or the hazardous components that are present within the run-of-mine particles. So while we are analyzing the chemical composition of the raw material, at least in the earlier days, we were interested mostly in the end product, and we often overlooked the traces of or the small quantity of hazardous components that are present in this run-of-mine particles or in this raw material. So what it means is that when there are hazardous components that are present in the raw materials, despite it being in a smaller quantity, when we continue processing it, in one instance during the process, at one point or the other, we will be liberating these hazardous particles, these hazardous components, and we will be sending it into the environment in one form or the other. And this cannot be overlooked in the state we are currently in. So you are you might be aware of the things that are happening around the world. We have Trade Summit for ensuring that the climate change is rather it's not too drastic, and we are able to regulate our operations in such a way that we have some control on the climate change. And one area wherein we can have, or we can ensure that we are not rather accelerating this climate change is to ensure that we employ the raw material, or we process the raw material that comprises of the small traces of hazardous components alone. So as a metallurgist and a materials engineer, it is not only our role to provide the end product. So initially the focus was, okay, how can we provide the end product with the maximum economic benefit, or how can we efficiently, be it economic benefit or be it a temporal one, be it time based one, how can we produce this end product in a shorter duration of time. That used to be our primary goal. But now, given the state we are in, given the environment that surrounds us, we are forced rather to look into this aspect of identifying and quantifying the amount of hazardous material that are in the raw material that we process. So as a metallurgist and a materials engineer, it is not our role alone just to rather identify the desired mineral and identify the desired or rather to formulate the process through which this desired mineral can be extracted from the desired product can be extracted from the mineral. It is not only our goal to identify the raw material, to process the raw material, and process or formulate a process chain to extract the desired end product from this mineral. It is also our responsibility to ensure that all these processes, be it identifying the raw material, be it formulating the process chain, or be it economically producing an end product, in all these we should be conscious of the environment as well. We should be conscious of the components that we treat as the gangue, and we should be conscious of how, after producing the end product, after producing the product that is of economic value, how we are handling the waste, how we are handling the gangue mineral that are of large quantity and that might comprise of some hazardous component. So given the extended responsibility of a metallurgist or a materials engineer, using this chemical analysis, we are forced to look now, in addition to considering what is the composition of the mineral, we are required to look for the hazardous components, and we are required to state how to identify how much of the hazardous components are present here. So as a metallurgist or a materials engineer, we have responsibilities that goes beyond an industry, that goes beyond the lab. So we have a responsibility, and we have an opportunity to make use of this responsibility in a beneficial way. We have a say on the decisions that are being made on a much higher level. So we can contribute on decisions that are being made on a much higher level. So that is the role you would be playing when you are handling these minerals, and when you are attempting to bring about the end product from a given mineral. You have to be conscious on the presence of hazardous components in the raw material that you handle, in the run-of-mine material that you handle. And even though if you find the hazardous component, you have to make sufficient provision in the process chain of the mineral processing in order to ensure that these hazardous material are not directly let out into the environment, but they are sufficiently handled. So enough of the digression and the extended role of us as metallurgist and materials engineer. But this is something that is important as of now, and it will be, or its value will be increasing as you move further. So that by the time you get employed, or by the time you are in a position to develop your own process chain, we can say with absolute certainty, or close to absolute certainty, that this particular role of a metallurgist or a materials engineer will only increase, it will not decrease, because it is our responsibility to ensure that, because whatever hazardous component that we release during a material processing, during a mineral processing, it will never be of a small amount, it will usually be of a large amount. So when you are able to regulate that, you will be doing not only your community, not only your generation, but also your future generation a big favor. Yeah. So moving along, and again restricting ourselves to the subject at hand. So one role of chemical analysis is to treat the raw materials, and that is to identify what minerals are present, and based on that our development of the process chain varies. And secondly, in addition to identifying what minerals are present, it is through the chemical analysis that we understand how much of these minerals are, or how much of these desired chemical makeup is present in a given mineral. So one, you are initially identifying initially you are treating a given run of mine particles, and you are chemically understanding what is the makeup of it, what is the composition of it. And secondly, you are assessing in order to see if it is possible for you to ensure that you will be able to make the end product in an economically beneficial manner from this particular raw material. So that assessment will also be made during the chemical analysis. Only a sufficient level of or sufficient degree of chemical analysis will help us progress with the mineral processing techniques. But for the sufficient or adequate chemical analysis, we won't be able to proceed for the mineral processing technique. Only when we are sure that for this particular raw material, we will be able to economically rather extract the desired component. So even we will be able to rather extract the desired component from in an economically beneficial manner, we will be able to proceed with the mineral processing. And that understanding of whether from the given material the end product can be extracted in an economically beneficial manner comes from the chemical analysis, and it is usually referred to it as, or this process of assessing whether an economic benefit can be made when the given raw material is translated to the end product. This is often referred to as grading. Now amount or depending on the investment you make and depending on the gain you get out of it, the grades of the raw material vary. So supposing if you are able to make a huge profit out of it, be it materially, the profit doesn't necessarily have to mean the economic benefit. It could mean that by introducing less effort, by employing less amount of processing techniques, if you are able to make huge amount of product, if you are able to make a huge quantity of product, then essentially it is also a beneficial approach. So essentially it is also profitable. So the profitability of a given mineral is assessed, is evaluated during the chemical analysis. If we state that a given, so essentially what we do is we are essentially grading a given raw material, we are grading a given mineral or a given run of mine particle based on its composition. So when we say that this is a high grade mineral, then it means that it comprises of a large amount of particle that we are, the large amount of mineral that we are desired in. Or if we say this mineral is a high grade mineral, then we are stating that we will be able to make sufficient benefit or high benefit by processing this mineral. And this understanding of whether a given mineral is high grade or low grade or of a different grade comes through the chemical analysis. So in addition to identifying the chemical composition, what kind of mineral it is and what are the hazardous components associated with it, the chemical analysis also helps us understand if what kind of or what is the nature of the already identified mineral is this. So if this mineral is a high grade one, or meaning if we will be able to make sufficient benefit out of it, or if we will be able to rather extract sufficient benefit out of it, or we need to add to our effort in order to make some profit out of it. So those rather indications can be arrived at through the chemical analysis. So in addition to identifying the chemical analysis also helps us in grading the chemical or the minerals that we have at hand. So the entire approach of mineral processing will be based on this grading. So depending on the grade of mineral you have, the approach of mineral processing would vary. So therefore the chemical analysis is the dictating process or the dictating technique based on which we are formulating our mineral processing techniques. So if your chemical analysis indicates that the mineral that you have is an high grade one, then the number of techniques that are involved in the mineral processing will be less. If it is a low grade one, then you would have to add to the number of techniques that cost you the mineral processing. So that is what the advantage of the chemical analysis is. So finally the chemical analysis essentially helps us in formulating appropriate process chain. So So depending on what minerals it's there in the given raw material, depending on what grade of minerals we find, we will be able to appropriately define or formulate our process chain, and all these are possible because of the initial chemical analysis. Now, based on this introduction, now you will be able to make a fair assessment of how one can categorize the chemical analysis. So we saw that in the initial stages, or the first stage of chemical analysis involves studying the raw material and identifying what sort of mineral is present in it, what sort of components are present in it, and if at all there are any hazardous components present. So that is the first role of the initial studies of chemical or initial chemical analysis would involve. So it does not tell us how much a given chemical is present, or how much a given mineral is present, or how much a given component is present, but rather it just says what are the components that are present, and such analysis are referred to as the qualitative analysis. So the chemical analysis can be broadly categorized into qualitative, and the other one is the quantitative. So as we saw in the introduction, as the chemical analysis was introduced, the perspective among you might be able to realize that the chemical analysis, it assumes two different forms. One, in the initial stages, it involves identifying what are the different elements that are present in a given mineral, what are the different chemical components that are present in a given mineral. So those are referred to as qualitative chemical analysis. So qualitative chemical analysis means we are just identifying the different components that are present in a given raw material. So different chemical components that are present in a given raw material. Now, the other form of chemical analysis is the quantitative. It tells us, or it helps us quantify, it helps us ascertain how much of a given chemical component is present in a raw material. So what is present in a raw material is gathered by, or is ascertained by, the qualitative analysis, and how much of a given mineral or a given component, a chemical component, is present in a given mineral is ascertained by the quantitative analysis. So the role of chemical analysis in the framework of mineral processing, it is of two forms. One is qualitative, to identify the components in a given raw material, and secondly it is quantitative. It helps us measure, it helps us rather ascertain how much of a given chemical component is present in a raw material. And there is a unique form of quantitative chemical analysis which is referred to as assaying. So assaying is a form of, or a refined form of quantitative analysis which exclusively measures the chemical components that are desired to us. So supposing you are handling a mineral that the end product of which is iron. Now what assaying does is, the assaying is a chemical analysis that would help us predict how much of iron we will be able to extract by processing this particular mineral. So this assaying is a refined form of quantitative chemical analysis, but it is very much relevant in the formulation or in the designing of the processing techniques. So generally, even though the chemical analysis can be categorized as qualitative and quantitative, it is the assaying product or the assaying analysis that ultimately dictates or largely dictates the attempts or the processing that we develop for the mineral processing, the chain of techniques that we develop for mineral processing, because it predicts how much of the end product can be extracted from this given raw material. So assaying is a rather specific quantitative analysis, and it helps us understand, it helps us predict how much of the desired end product can be made from that of the raw materials. So you have chemical analysis, it has a specific role to play in the framework of mineral processing, and depending on its role we can categorize into qualitative and quantitative. And in the quantitative you have a technique called as assaying that helps us understand what would be the amount of end product that can be made from that of the initial raw material. Now when you consider the critical aspects of the chemical analysis, it begins with what we refer to as sampling. So when you are considering or when you are performing the chemical analysis often it irreversibly changes your raw material. So this chemical analysis often it irreversibly changes your raw material. So it changes the makeup of your raw material, or it often changes the features of the raw material. So one, you change the feature of raw material, it is no longer a raw material to us, it has lost its features that was beneficial to us. So therefore, you cannot rather employ a major portion of, or you cannot take out a major portion of the raw material for chemical analysis. So we need to be prudent about how much portion are we taking, are we considering for the chemical analysis, and that is what is referred to as sampling. So sampling, you would have heard of this term in numerous places. I mean, you would have come across this even in rather non-technical aspects as well. So what essentially sampling does is it ensures that we are considering the optimum amount of the raw materials for the chemical analysis, and not only the optimum amount but also the specific the sample that we take should be representative of the entire batch of raw materials. So the sample should not be significantly different from that of the raw material, because whatever understanding we gain from the sample is going to decide the entire processing technique. It's going to decide the different techniques that we are going to employ in the process chain. So therefore, the sample that you take should be representative, or it should be indicative of the entire raw material. So there are two critical aspects that are involved while considering the sampling. One, only the required amount should be taken from the raw material for the chemical analysis. And secondly, because chemical analysis often changes the composition, the chemical makeup of the raw material, and this raw material cannot be put back into the production. So therefore, only an optimum amount should be taken out for sampling. And secondly, and more importantly, the sample should be representative of the entire raw material. It should not be that the sample that we take is representative or is just unique or just different from that of the, or it just represents a portion of the raw material. Supposing if we consider a run-of-mine particles that is of something like this region here cannot act as a sample, and this region here cannot act as a sample. So sample should include both. So since we have already seen a particle like this, I have assumed that you know what this means. So here we have our mineral and surrounding it is gangue. So the sample should not be from this section wherein we only have impurities, and the sample should not be of this section wherein we only have the desired mineral. So the sample should encompass both. Ideally, the sample should encompass both the gangue and the mineral in close to the proportion that is found in the overall run-of-mine particles. So the sample should contain both mineral and also gangue in a proportion, in an ideal case in a proportion that is observed in the overall run-of-mine particles. In the overall raw material, in what proportion it is present, the same proportion the sample should it should be represented in the sample. Now, the other critical aspect of chemical analysis is we have numerous technique or the numerous way of analyzing the chemical composition of the raw materials. So again, this raw material, it means that we are considering both gangue and the desired mineral. So when we consider the chemical analysis, of course chemical analysis it is used in wide context, a wide range of industrial application. The chemical analysis is used, and because of its role in a plethora of system, in the plethora of industries, there are numerous forms of chemical analysis, and there are numerous forms of chemical analysis that are being developed for a specific cases and that are being extended elsewhere. So we have several techniques that are available, and it is our responsibility to select the technique that would be appropriate to analyze our given sample. So one other critical aspect of chemical analysis apart from sampling is selecting the right technique for our given raw material. So this right technique should ensure us we are able to arrive at the accurate description of the chemical makeup of a given raw material. So we are able to accurately estimate what are the different chemical components that are present in the raw material. So the one technique might be able to accurately estimate specific chemical components when compared to others. So the choice of the chemical analysis or the choice of the technique that we use for chemical analysis should depend on its ability to accurately measure the chemical components that are present in a given raw material. So if say for instance a technique is accurately able to measure the amount of sulfide in the wide range of raw materials, we cannot, because of its ability to accurately measure the amount of sulfide, based on that information alone, we cannot use or rely on the technique to identify the amount of oxide present in a different raw material. So it is possible, since these chemical analyses are often developed based on or focusing on a specific raw materials, often these chemical analysis or these techniques are geared towards identifying a specific mineral. So therefore, a technique, if it is able to identify a specific component, based on the accuracy of its ability to identify a specific component, based on that alone, we should not employ it for identifying other components. So therefore, it is our responsibility to select an appropriate technique based on the raw material we have for its chemical analysis. And secondly, one other factor that you need to consider is the efficiency. In case of efficiency, we need to consider two aspects. One is the amount of sample that the technique consumes or it intakes in order to produce an accurate result. Because whatever sample, the amount of sample you gain is, or the amount of sample you consider for the chemical analysis is essentially being taken out of the raw material. So whatever sampling you are doing, you are essentially reducing the amount of raw materials that you can profitably access. So therefore, the efficiency of a given chemical analysis technique, it depends on amount of sampling it intakes or amount of sample it intakes in order to produce a given accurate result, in order to produce an accurate results. So supposing if the given technique requires a huge amount of sample to produce an accurate result, then we need to ensure that the accuracy that we get is rather compensating for the amount of raw material that we lost for sampling. So what we need to do is we need to strike a right balance between the accuracy and the efficiency. If it is possible for us to use a less amount of sample and arrive at a practical accuracy, then we should always go for that particular combination. So essentially, we need to consider that this chemical analysis is not done to produce or to arrive or to precisely calculate or estimate the different chemical components. This chemical analysis is done in the framework of mineral processing. So there is often something referred to as a practical accuracy. So for a practical accuracy, even though it might be a bit short than the exact quantity of, or measuring the exact quantity of the components present in the raw material, the practical accuracy will enable us to appropriately formulate the process chain. So therefore, we need to ensure that there is a balance between accuracy and efficiency. So if in order to have, or in order to precisely calculate the chemical composition of a given mineral, if your technique needs a huge amount of sample, and the amount of sample can be reduced if we stick with the practical accuracy, then we should always go for practical accuracy, because we need to consider the place of chemical analysis in the whole scheme of things. This chemical analysis, we are not treating it separately, but in the framework of mineral processing. The other way the efficiency can be enhanced is the amount of time that is taken for chemical analysis. Again, once your raw material is rendered to you, or once the raw material is given to you, and since the chemical analysis is the starting step for the mineral processing, the time taken for the chemical analysis ultimately affects the time that is spent in the process chain. So if you spend, or if your chemical analysis is prolonged, the process chain will stay as it is. All the benefits, all the products that can be made, or all the enrichment that can be made using this process chain is now left untouched. It is now in loss because we are taking our time in chemical analysis. So in addition to the amount of raw materials that is being gathered as sample, the efficiency of a given technique also depends on the duration of the chemical analysis. And then again, even in this case, we need to achieve a right balance between the accuracy and efficiency. So with this introduction and the critical aspects of chemical analysis, we will wind this lecture up. In the subsequent lecture, we will get into the specifics of the chemical analysis, and we will see few specific techniques that are associated with chemical analysis in the framework of mineral processing. Goodbye.